Hello everyone, Burst87 here, back with more Bloons TD Battles 2. Yes, even after I said, I wasn't having any fun playing Battles 2 anymore, my feelings about that still hasn't changed, but by the time this video goes up, I think it was second Bloons TD Battles 2 video would have already amassed 1,000 views, which is absolutely a large amount and insane. I really didn't expect that much popularity from that one video. And my Century Champion video is also exploding in popularity recently. It's gotten over 430 views, where in like the past few days it's gotten over like 200 views. Anyways, as you can tell by the thumbnail, we're going to be discussing, Heli Pilot and why I think it's a bad tower. So the strat I chose with Heli was Heli Ice Village, which was a meta strat from Bloons TD Battles 1. The community just ended up dubbing it HIV, because it's hilarious, whatever. Now, I think that most of the Heli's problems can just be simpled down into just a few factors. One is microing it, two is just the upgrades in general, and three is just the footprint. I'll discuss footprint. It's fairly simple, but Heli is just way too big. It is a thick tower. Like, just looking at this map, you really would have a hard time fitting multiple helipods on this map. And this sucks late game because you're gonna have to spam, Apache dart chips in order to actually, I guess, just defend late game. As of course, Apache Prime sucks versus DDTs, and well, the only good DDT popping power you'd have with Heli is Marine. But Marine is ability based, so if once that ability runs out of cooldown, you're kind of screwed. Now, as you can see, Red Bloon Camp is just kind of a train wreck at this point. I feel like NK's tutorial really did not teach enough. Because, my opponent seems to be going NG Glue Sniper. He placed down Glue immediately and then bought Engineer. And of course, he has Sniper down there for whatever reason. I guess NK just needs a slightly better tutorial than the one they have. And he started boosting greens at me, which is kind of funny. Anyways, back to what I was saying about the footprint. Heli is just simply too big of a tower that it would be really difficult to fit multiple heli pilots on many maps, and I can think this problem would be exacerbated on shorter maps like Koru, to where you don't have a lot of space, to the point where heli just is outclassed by other towers that it just isn't worth using over many other towers, just because the footprint is just so big that you would have a hard time fitting and spamming heli pilots all over maps. So I think making the footprint just a bit smaller would help it be more viable. Now, I'm not just talking about heli pilot should be as small as Dart Monkey, but I feel like it just does need to be a tad bit smaller. I can tell it's this pretty much the same size as in BTD6, and in that game it worked fine because really you only needed maybe one or two helis. Really only one heli if you're going for Apache Prime, and so footprint was never a problem. But in this game, footprint is an issue since you are going to have to spam multiple heli pilots, because one, heli is a lot weaker than it is, in Battles 2 than it is in BTD6, so you're going to have to spam a lot more heli pilots, especially, Apache dart chips for late game. Now you might be wondering, why is footprint a problem? Village, Village and Super are both pretty thick towers that, footprint just isn't a massive issue. Well, the problem with the footprint is, of course, you can definitely fit a lot more super monkeys on this map than you can heli pilots. I'm not even sure why. I'm pretty sure that heli and super have the same footprint. If not, they're very, very close. And village and super, they're much better towers and well-rounded towers in general. As body path super is DDT killer and just a Moab class Bloon killer in general. Sun Avatar, I'm assuming, would probably be a fantastic mid-game tower. But, heli doesn't really excel in any of those regions. Dart ship is too expensive that by the time, you can actually afford it, your opponent is probably sending, DDTs or fortified ZOMGs, which, of course, I'm assuming Dart ship can't handle. I obviously don't have it unlocked, but Dart ship is a lot weaker in Battles 2 than it is in BTD6, and Dart ship in regular BT6 couldn't handle, DDTs. Top Path Heli just sucks versus DDT. Compare that with Super, which is fantastic against DDTs. Village, allows towers to be able to hit DDTs as well as provide extra income and, buff primary towers, or you can just use Top Path for pure damage if you want. And this moves me on to my next point, which is upgrades. Heli's upgrades in this game are kinda disappointing. I can already see that bottom path heli won't really have much use, because just like in BTD6, Moab shove just ends up being a worse Moab press, and it's more expensive. Moab press can like hold multiple ZOMGs and basically just permastall them in place. Like Moab shove can't do that, which I guess is just a problem, as it's like largely outclassed by that. Moab shove really struggles when multiple like Moab class balloons are on screen. It can't hold multiple Moab class balloons in place at one time, whereas Moab press can. Like sure, Moab shove has the advantage of full map range, but that full map range isn't really good or worth it if I can just barely hold one Moab on at one time. Once more than one Moab shows up, it really does struggle against, just holding Moab class balloons in place. And many of Heli's upgrades in general are just kind of disappointing and underwhelming. Of course, I reckon that Razor Rotors plus Ice Shards could be an insanely good combo, but just microing the Heli is incredibly annoying. I'll speak about that later, but Top Path Heli in general just kind of seems underwhelming to me. Apache Prime sucks versus DDTs, and by the time you afford Apache Prime your opponent is going to start sending DDTs at you. So why would you spend like almost 40k on a tower, I think it's almost 50k on a tower, that just sucks versus DTs around the time when DTs are going to be sent? Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you could argue that, Moab Shove could help against that, but again, like I said, Moab Shove can't hold multiple Moab class balloons in one place. So again, your really only option is Marine, but you have to buy a tier 5 tower just to handle DDTs, which again, you really don't want to do. That's a lot of money you're spending just to counter, just round 26 and round 28. Like, you really don't want to spend this much in order to defend DDTs. And I can imagine that, like, if so many DDTs are on screen at one time, even Marine would get overwhelmed. Or even just, like, multiple fortified DDTs. So, like, again, really only one upgrade is, like, semi-decent against DDTs, but it's ability based, so if once that ability runs out, what are you gonna do then? And the last point I want to bring up is microing the heli. Microing heli is incredibly annoying and tedious. With Dartling, it's not as big of an issue, but like with heli, it is just terrible. I think they changed it to where, heli just goes wherever you click the mouse. Now this is different from Battles 1, as it just worked as it did normally. It'd follow your mouse wherever you go, you didn't have to click it. But in Battles 2, you have to click the screen to where it goes anywhere. This is incredibly annoying and slow, which is, I guess, just a reason. You really don't want to use pursuit targeting when you're going heli pilot, as pursuit targeting with heli is just terrible. It's much better if you use your own targeting. Of course, which is follow mouse. But follow mouse is just so slow that microing heli is just kind of a chore at times. And of course, microing in this game, is important. I feel like they probably changed it so where, since in Battles 1, many players, when microing the heli, what they would do is they would put the heli in one spot, press a hotkey for a tower, and then move their cursor onto the balloon send so that way their heli stayed in place. And just in case if your opponent sent a rush, they could easily just move their cursor back onto the area where they were microing their heli, and then boom, it was like, sort of locked in place at home. Of course, I guess they tried to just discourage that or remedy that, but doing that, they've made microing it just incredibly annoying to where really you just want it in one place at one time, so you're not constantly having to click everywhere in order to, effectively micro. This would eventually end up being a problem late game, as of course you're going to be spamming towers all over the screen. So you don't accidentally want to click a tower whilst you're like microing the heli. I think making it, actually follow your mouse instead of, having to click everywhere would make it, I guess, just more fun and enjoyable to use. Having to constantly click everywhere all over the map, is slow, and you really don't want to be slow in a game like this. Maybe they've changed it, just thinking about it to incentivize, middle cross path, bigger jets, so that way your heli actually moves over there faster. But I still don't feel like that really incentivizes middle cross path. I'm not going to sacrifice, damage just for speed. I do want heli pilot to be good, and I think it could be a good tower, but just thinking about it, And I guess just playing around with it, just like, it's just unfortunately not right now. You know, it's a shame that, you know, that you can't really try out many new towers simply because of just they aren't viable. So to summarize, my point is, you know, the upgrades are incredibly underwhelming and not powerful enough for when you unlock them. Comanche Commander, of course, can't even hit DDT, so you're gonna have to bring a village for that. And even then, I really don't feel like Comanche Commander can handle, you know, multiple fortified or DDTs. And of course, it sucks against the bad, so there's that. Marine, of course, is the DDT killer of the like heli, heli, but like it's ability based. So once that ability runs out, you know, what are you gonna do then? And then just of course microing it. Microing it is incredibly annoying and tedious, and I just don't want to do it. Like having to click everywhere on the screen in order to actually get my heli to do what I want is incredibly annoying. And of course, its footprint is so large that it's hard to spam them all over the map. Like I haven't played a match on Bloons TD Mines yet, but just thinking about that map, it really does seem like you would struggle to fit multiple heli pilots on that map. Just like you probably can't even fit 10 there, which of course isn't good for late game. And you're gonna have to combine it with Village if you want to go for like Comanche Commander, because of course you'd want as much DT popping power as you get, even though if the tower isn't very good against DTs. You know, just I guess just my final thoughts about this is that just like many towers in the game, it just needs a buff. You know, it's kind of crazy that, you know, just thinking about the state of BTD battles too, is that there are many towers that are overtuned and are too strong. I guess they're not overtuned, but just due to bugs and just the fact that they're broken, is that they're too strong. But then you have towers that are just too weak and not worth using, like glue. There's a bug that apparently glue retargets, you know, already glued balloons, which of course, you know, that shouldn't be happening. That's obviously a bug, but that just makes it just unusable. Anyways, those are my thoughts of how I think about heli and just why in general the community dubs it just a bad tower. Now, I'm not saying you're a bad player if you use heli. You know, by all means, if you want to, go ahead. You'll probably be rewarded with a buff when the next patch comes out. Although that probably won't be until like once 2022 rolls around. So anyways, I'm going to end the video here. If you enjoyed, I guess like, subscribe, or you can go watch the is Ice Monkey Underrated video. Go check that out. That video is probably over 1,000 views by the time this video comes out. Also expect to see more Battles 2 videos where I'm not just going, you know, NG, Wizard, and Ice. You know, I created an alt account. I really didn't want to do that, but I decided to do it anyway so I can try out multiple strategies without having to, I guess, surrender farm. Or not surrender farm because that's not viable anymore, where I just had to D-rank and then just smurf on low arenas in order to actually try out different strategies.